Shall we start?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Techgig webinar series. Our topic for today's session is Mind of Cloud Strategist. Why does cloud computing strategies deserve our attention? And we have with us today Professor Ravindra. He's the Director of Center for Web-Enabled Learning and Assistant Professor of Computer Science and Engineering at SDM College of Engineering and Technology. A cloud computing thought leader and a cloud evangelist working towards making business leaders and students under the full potential of cloud computing paradigm and help them harness it for strategic purposes. Has taught and built cloud entrepreneurs and has presented at cloud computing events such as Cloud Connect India. In addition to this, he has also made more than 100 presentations on what is there for me in cloud computing across India. Some of the key questions which will get answered during today's session are why do cloud computing strategies deserve our attention, which is pretty much what the topic is going to be around. Why do we need a new cloud mindset? What are the core principles of leading with a cloud mindset? What leadership development strategies support a cloud mindset and skills? So without any further delay, I will now hand over the session to Ravindra. Over to you, Ravindra. I'm going to now make you the presenter for the session.
Good evening, everybody, and thanks to Sri Lagna for making a good introduction. Show my screen. So can you see my screen, madam?
Yes, we can see your screen now.
Shall we start? Okay, I'll start.
Sure.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this an important presentation by myself. Today I'll be talking about one of the most powerful technology which is shaping our world. And I thank this Techgig for actually allowing me to do this and all the people who have registered over a period of time. Let me start with my presentation. So my plan of my presentation is very simple. So I'll be taking a minute to tell you the purpose of my presentation, and after that I will actually talk very briefly about the introduction to cloud computing. I'll take another 2 minutes for that. Then the important part of my presentation would start, where actually how cloud computing has empowered me and my students, and how this empowerment can be generalized to everybody in the population. And finally, I will be covering certain information regarding to the content which is important for the audience. I have actually made a profile out of that. The single purpose of this presentation is very simple: to demonstrate you the power and potential of cloud computing with illustration. So when I speak about one empowering element of cloud computing, I'm actually giving an example to do this. And secondly, I will be trying to urge every one of you, from starting from a common person to a professional, to take a new look at this new opportunity and shape virtually everything that is going to come in the coming days. And I also took a look at the audience, and as you can see it, about 352 people have registered for this, and about 55% belong to software developers, and about 22% project leaders. So my presentation is completely oriented towards them because they constitute about in excess of 80%, and I'll be covering all the implications of cloud computing for this particular audience. So let me start. See, regarding cloud computing, there are three things. One is the reality, and another one is the concern, and finally is the challenge one. The first business reality is this: the explosive emergence of cloud computing as an essential and a distinct and a leading platform for human endeavors is a pivotal event in the social history. See, today, no matter what is happening, actually, cloud computing has become an essential thing, whether it's a government or a private organization or an entrepreneur. And it is very distinct from whatever that has happened in the human history before this. And leading platform means, actually, now that leaders are moving to cloud computing, but eventually everybody in the community, society would finally eventually end up in cloud computing. So this is an emerging reality, and this reality is going to be there for quite some time. So as with any presentation, I start with a small definition of cloud computing. See, cloud computing is this. As you can see in this picture, there is a cloud in between, and there are resources on the one side and users on the other side. So what you see here is some users are coming to cloud computing and actually using those resources. And this is exactly the simple definition of cloud computing. What cloud computing says is, come to internet and we will give whatever the resource that you need. If you are a student, you will get some resources to edit your document, and if you are a researcher, you will get some computing to process your final, whatever that processing part is there. Cloud computing is an evolution. By that we mean that there is nothing new in cloud computing as far as the elements are concerned, but in combination it has constituted a very powerful thing. So it's a result of evolution plus adaptation of some existing technologies. For example, APIs were there, distributed computing was there, storage devices were there, but the way cloud computing actually connects them so that you can produce something, a synergistic effect, is something new about that. So from the user perspective, cloud computing has a promise and a goal. The goal of cloud computing is to allow user to take benefit of all those technologies without needing to have a deeper knowledge. So this is true for other technologies. For example, when somebody uses a camera, he is not actually knowing the technology beforehand. But until today, until cloud computing came, it was impossible for ordinary users to use a computer because installation would mean a lot of technologies, lot of details knowing and all. So cloud computing has removed this requirement of knowing technology as an essential part of using it. And most importantly, from the business perspective, cloud computing aims at cutting costs. That's where the story starts, but that is not the only thing that. And allow computer businesses to focus on core businesses. So essentially, cloud computing has a promise. So you can use the resources that you want without bothering the fundamentals behind it. And you can actually focus on your core business and then cut costs also.
Sorry to interrupt.
Comes like what you can expect. Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
Tell me.
Your audio is not coming quite clearly. I mean, there's a lot of echo at the background. So if you could really keep the microphone close to while talking, that would be great.
Okay. Now is it okay now? Hello?
Yeah, I mean, I can hear you, but there's not that much clarity when you're talking.
Okay. Now?
Yeah, this should be better.
Okay. Shall I proceed?
Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you. So now that I told you the power of cloud computing, what to expect from cloud computing is very simple. There are 5 characteristics that you can expect that I will tell you in my next slide. And there are 3 delivery methods which actually you can expect. And finally, 2 deployment models. So let me start with the delivery methods. Computer system essentially consists of 3 components: the hardware that you have, and the operating system which sits above that, and an application. So what cloud computing has done then, it has made a distinction between this hardware, and all the hardware components actually can be availed as a service from cloud computing called infrastructure as a service. So any hardware computer that you get actually at the bottom is actually called infrastructure as a service. The middle one, the operating system in the working environment, is given as a platform as a service, which is meant for the developers. The third one, like the applications, that is got as a software as a service. So this is the 3 elements which you get in cloud computing. And the deployment methods are this. So assume that cloud computing is actually working, then what are the 2 ways in which you can use them? Given an organization, cloud computing can be used in 2 different ways. The way we use buses, for example. A company can actually build a transportation or a cloud and give it to public, the way KSRTC or other public transport services are there. Or an institution can also use buses to run its own services for their students and all, in which case it turns out to be a private service. Similarly, a cloud which is built only for the exclusive use of internal people is called private cloud, whereas the cloud which is meant for the public, for example, such as Google, actually is called a public cloud. So there are 2 ways in which you can deploy, and there are 3 services that you can expect. In this picture, it is very clear that what you can expect from cloud computing, you can actually expect on demand. That means whenever you want, you will get it. It's like something like an ATM, where actually when you ask for money, it has to give you. And an ubiquitous network. That means cloud computing is the only technology which is available on different technologies. See, until today, if you want to listen to a particular radio station, then it was available only on a on a broadcast manner. And if you want to watch a TV, then you have to go for a broadcasting corporation. Whereas cloud computing is something which is available in almost all these platforms. Hence, it is called ubiquitous. And location transparent and resource pooling. That I will show you some very immediately. And rapid elasticity is actually a process in which it can scale up to 100 users, to 200 users, 10,000 users without any problems. So this is where actually I get the essence of my presentation. See, cloud computing is empowering each one of us. And here is an example how a particular teacher is using cloud computing in his day-to-day activities. Look at this. So here is a class in which a teacher is teaching and everybody is accessing the same presentation. See, this is not possible in a day before cloud computing. Now a presentation which is loaded onto Google Docs is actually shared by everybody, and as you can see, there are no downloads and no pen drives. So this is one of the strong the proponent of cloud computing, which is actually uses multi-tenancy. And the students who are attending this class don't have to be taught anything again what is the property of multi-tenancy. So multi-tenancy is an ability to run an application on a server and serve to as many people as possible. So when I'm teaching a cloud computing course, this is how I teach. Actually, I use my Google Docs and ask all people to log in from their own their accounts and start accessing it. So the reason why I'm showing you this, an ordinary person like a faculty can actually be enabled by cloud computing. Look at this. One of the other possibility of another strength of cloud computing is rapid elasticity. What it actually means is, if you have 100 students in a class and for some reason they become 200 students, you can actually upgrade, you can serve them without any problem. So look at this. Here is one of my presentations done in Tamil Nadu. Okay. 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 So So now this actually talks about rapid elasticity. What it actually means is, see here I'm teaching about 250 students, and remember I have not actually allowed my student to download, nor that they have to be copied onto this. So these are the two powerful powers of cloud computing which anybody can use. This is only an instance where actually a teacher is using, but assume that you are a business and you are delivering a particular service to this. Cloud computing will come to your help and says that, okay, you don't mind whether it's 100 users or 1,000 users. So while that I have told you that how cloud computing has empowered an ordinary teacher, I'm also showing another example where a student of mine actually developed a cloud computing project as a part of his final year engineering, and based on the skills that he gained during that course, he went on to become an engineer, and today he is drawing a lot of salary. The power of cloud computing is that now all the resources which were needed for this particular project actually was given by cloud without any cost. And by doing this, actually, he overcome the constraint of a campus hiring. The student didn't have enough percentage to be either even considered by companies like Infosys and all, but he actually made a career out of by using cloud computing. The reason why I'm telling is how actually it is helping another person in the society where actually he is using cloud computing to build his own career. So the message so far is this. Cloud can empower an ordinary person and it can empower anybody in the path. What cloud computing has done is actually it has unleashed a new world order in which traditional constraints like budget, geographies, languages, infrastructure will simply disappear. There is no constraint. Only constraint today is actually the imagination. If you have imagination and if you want to do a task, what cloud computing says is this: the resources are there here and you can take them. See, look at this. See, one of the challenges which is faced by computer professionals is the time-space complexity. What it actually means is, I want to do fast, I need more machines. I want to store something, I need space. And a combination and working a constraint, that means I have a limited space and a limited time was actually has constrained people in the past. But what cloud computing says is, scaling is the way where you can increase your storage to any level and you can take computing to any level. So by removing this restriction of space and complexity, cloud computing has opened a new world for the programmers. Secondly, the geography. In cloud computing, there is no geography. If you look at the heading, actually, I've given constraint-less computing. So what cloud computing has done is there is no constraint. For example, look at this, an example where how cloud computing has helped a person to overcome the barriers of geography. There is a perception within the programming community or software community that if you want to do something in programming or software, you have to be there in Bangalore, and that too in Electronic City. This particular company, which is actually based in Calcutta, has used all the cloud computing technologies to reach everyone in the world. So geography is also eliminated by cloud computing. Thirdly, the another barrier that the traditional world had is actually a language. Now, actually, I'm using Google Translate to teach the same courses that I teach to my students in English in 6 different languages. That means even the barrier of language is eliminated by cloud computing. Third one, in the last 5 years, I don't have owned a single computer, and I never go to any presentation with a computer. So without ownership, without downloading software, without installing, cloud computing has given me an opportunity to use everything. Cloud computing is actually latest in the technology, which seems to have eliminated natural barriers that we had. See, the human progress is also always limited by the natural barriers. So before 14th century, memory was a big barrier. That means the amount that you can remember was dependent on the memory that you had. But the emergence of printing book and an emergence of the books actually has extended your memory. So thereafter, you don't depend on human memory, you actually depend on the books. And you know, whenever a technology overcomes a natural barrier, it will create a new revolution. And you know, because we could print books, we can open universities and we can educate the entire population. Similarly, we had another problem called muscle power. So before the industrial revolution, that is before the invention of steam engine, the amount of work that you can do or the distance that you can travel was limited by the muscle power that in animals or you had. But the introduction of steam engine actually removed that, and thereafter all that you have to do is not to use your muscle power, but the machine power to get your work done. And you know, that created industrial revolution. Similarly, when another technology called electricity came, actually it extended our day. Before electricity, if you want to work in the night time, it was not possible because there is no sun. But now that you have electricity, it extended. So every technology which overcomes a natural barrier will actually create a new revolution. So what cloud computing has done is it has created an omnipresence for individuals and an open world. What I mean by omnipresence, any user of Facebook will know that he will have about 10 or 20 people online all the time. Every time you open a chat window, you go to that continent. A technology which makes you to be present everywhere in different countries simultaneously is something gives you a power which only God had earlier. So this is exactly the power of cloud computing. There is no limitation today which either imagined or not, okay, which will stop you from doing one thing. But the concern is totally different. Despite its crucial importance and high visibility, cloud computing seems to be the least understood and least used technology today for the reasons which I will connect you. But as you probably know that the economic success of the future generation depends on our connected society, and cloud computing is the engine which is going to do that for us. The challenge for each one of us, every professional who is actually listening to this presentation, is to use cloud computing for personal and social performance, of course, the performance of the business. So cloud computing, in other words, should become a practice which can be employed by anybody, everybody, everyone, everywhere in the industry, and actually take advantage of that. So the term actually I use strategies in my title for a simple reason that strategy is a determination of a basic long-term goals, and cloud is going to be there for a long time, and nobody can aspire to succeed in future without making cloud an integral part of their their strategy and in their practice, and that needs a different kind of a mindset. And I have to warn you that cloud computing is not new in its components. For example, data distributed computing was there, networks are there, internet were, but it is very new in its combination. The way it has combined different technologies to give a synergic effect is something which is new about cloud computing. So as I told you, I took an audience composition, and I found that there are 117 developers who are listening to my presentation as per the registration. So much of my presentation actually is going towards them. So it is not often that software goes through a revolutionary change, but advent of cloud computing will force every developer to reevaluate everything and actually change their complete assumptions. For developers, the cloud computing is forcing them to rethink everything and know about making software. Okay. In programming, nothing has changed because all that has happened in the past is you have an application to run and a platform needed to run that. But what has changed is the underlying principles. For example, when in the 1950s and 60s when we had mainframe, the underlying technology was totally different. But in the advent of PC and the architectures and client-server technologies and other things, actually there is an evolution. So every time there is a new technology, the designing principles will change. But when you want to understand a new world of possibilities, you got to forget the old ones. And it is not a transition. For example, now you look at that. So if you learn plane geometry, and if you want to move to go to spherical geometry, then you know there are no straight lines in spherical geometry, and there is no starting and end point. Every point is the beginning. So this kind of a knowledge is needed whenever you move to another platform. Similarly, suppose you are learning linear motion and you want to move to circular motion, whatever that you have learned in linear motion, you have to forget before you can start in circular motion. For example, in linear motion, there is something called starting point and end point. In circular motion, there is not. Similarly, when you are moving your programming paradigms from the traditional computing to the web computing or to the cloud computing, you have to change a lot. See, look at this. In the desktop public applications, you had your own machine, your own data, and your own business logic, everything sitting on the machine. So that means there is only a single UI, and that you are developing, which is straightforward job. But in cloud computing, your services must be built to multiple users. For example, there is a desktop which you are using, there is a mobile which somebody else is using, an open interface where actually somebody will use your services to integrate using an API. So look at this. In this cloud application, on the right side you use an application and there is no software data.
Ravindra, are you there? Apologies. Apologies on behalf of the expert. I think he must be experiencing some connectivity problem. So we'll be waiting for him to rejoin the session. Till then, would like to request all of you to be patient and be online.
Everything.
Hello? Ravindra, can you hear me? Ravindra, request you to let me know once you can hear me.
These are the applications which you should be going.
Uh,
Okay. So collaborate. Yes, madam.
Ravindra, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm not sure if you're talking all this while, but for almost good 3 or 4 minutes you were not audible, and we could see you going offline. So you
Okay.
were not audible for probably for the past 4 or 5 minutes.
Okay, okay. So how do I go back or what do I do?
Yes, perhaps you were on this particular screen. Um, no, I think the cloud
Which one this
computing.
one?
No, no, no. Slide number 38.
Till before? 38, okay. This one?
Yeah,
This is
exactly.
38 one.
Yeah, this is the
I'll
slide
start now?
that you were on. Please.
Oh, okay, okay, fine.
And Ravindra,
Okay,
I would
so the
request you.
cloud,
Your voice is still not coming that clear. A lot of our attendees are having problem in hearing you clearly. So either I would
okay,
request you to probably check your microphone setting, or if possible
okay,
call back from your cell phone or landline by using the toll free number that has been shared.
okay, I will do that.
Could you do that? You
Yeah, I
don't
will do
need to
that. One
log
minute.
out from GoToMeeting. You can just be
Yeah, yeah,
online. Just call
okay,
from
okay,
your landline
okay,
using the toll free number.
okay, I will do that. I'll do that.
Apologize for this inconvenience. As you can see, he's having little difficulty with the connectivity. Plus, I think there's little bandwidth problem as we are facing today. Request all the attendees to be patient and be online. Ravindra will rejoin the session in about 2-3 minutes. He's just going to dial in.
Yes. The line I am getting engaging, madam. Engaged? Srilagna? Hello?
Yes, Ravindra, tell me.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
I'm getting that line engaged. Actually, that line, the toll-free line, I'm getting engaged.
I will just give you the number here online. Just give me 1 minute.
Okay. Okay.
Is this the number that you're trying? 000-800-852-1425?
Yeah, yeah.
Is this the number that you're
I'll try
dialing
again
in?
1 minute. Yeah, yeah. 1030 800
85225.
1425.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying the same one.
Give me a moment, please. I'll just try from my end.
Okay.
Ravindra, I think you must be dialing a wrong number, or probably you are not giving the right access code before dialing in, because I just tried
Okay.
from our end and the line seems to be perfectly fine. Do you need to
Okay. That
add,
is, I will try.
do you need to press 0 before you dial in an outstation number?
Yeah,
Maybe you
yeah.
need to press 0 before you dial in the toll-free number. You need to dial in the entire number starting from 000. So maybe if you press 0 and then 000.
Hi, I got it.
Ravindra, tell you what, if you're still having difficulty in calling, just let's continue with the microphone and your headset, and let's see whether the audio comes clear now. Ravindra, please let me know if you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I think, okay, have you dialed in or you're still using your microphone?
No, I have dialed in.
Okay, if you have dialed in, just quickly do me a favor. On the GoToMeeting
Okay.
control panel, the way I have asked you, if you could see the
Okay.
audio option,
Okay.
go and
Yeah.
select
Audio.
just select the telephone option,
Okay, I'll select it.
and please take the microphone and your basically disable your headphone and microphone from your computer, because there is
Yeah,
an
I've done that.
audio overlap. All right. Okay,
Okay.
now we can continue.
Okay. Fine. Okay. So sorry for the disturbance. And this is what I was actually talking about. So there's a world of difference between the traditional computing applications and the cloud application. And as you see in this figure, now everything is on the cloud except that you have a connectivity through a browser. And this browser not necessarily have to be from a computer. It can go from any device. Okay. So having said this, now I'll be talking about kind of the application that you can do. See, software developers, if they want to develop an application for the cloud computing, that has to be something like a collaborative application where one or more people would like to work. For example, an on-site engineer and an off-site engineer is using a particular document, and that kind of an applications are good. And if it is a large computation like a DNA study or some kind of a mining technology, then you are be using cloud computing. So now I'll get into the details like how the old world and how the new world are actually changing the very applications or very nature of a cloud computing application. In the old world, programmers were used to what is known as scale up. That what it actually means is, suppose they wanted to accommodate more users and or to more data, all they used to buy is an additional storage device or additional bigger server. Whereas in cloud computing, as you see on the picture on scale out, you don't do that. Actually, you have to go on adding a smaller machines as and when you need it. So this is a fundamental difference from the other one, where actually the scaling up approach would mean that you want to go to a bigger processor. That means you have to actually get rid of the older processor. Whereas in scale out, you are adding as and when you need without actually obstructing the existing application. And second one, actually, in the older approach, software is seen as very unreliable. That means we have been already told in the traditional computing, if machine not working, please shut it down and boot it up. So the software was considered to be unreliable, and hardware was always a strong thing. Whereas in cloud computing, actually, it is the hardware which is very weak, because you don't know where the hardware is coming, and you don't know who is the service provider, and what is the state or health of that. So for that reason, actually, developers have to now focus more on actually assuring that they get a hardware for running their application. So much so important is actually, see, Amazon is one of the leading companies. What they have done is actually they have developed a special program called Chaos Monkey, whose job is to just go on killing the virtual machines which is allocated to machine, just to ensure that their programs are resilient and work everywhere. And that is the level which actually the uncertainty happens as far as hardware is concerned, and this needs a totally different mindset for a developer. We have been used for the last 40 years to assume hardware and work, whereas in cloud, you don't assume and you can't assume. You will be given, but when you given, the guarantee is to be tested by yourself. And the third important difference between the old and the traditional and the new one is, in old applications, the workload was stable. For example, if I developed an attendance application for my college, there used to be 100 or 2,000 students, and they would not change drastically. Similarly, if I am running a tax application for my organization, I know the employees, which are fairly a good number. Whereas in cloud computing application, if you host an application on cloud, and if you ask people to run their test application or a tax application, you don't know what is the final number. So the number is unpredictable, the pattern is unpredictable. So this is the second difference between a traditional computing and a cloud computing. And the software variety also. See, in the olden days, if you learn Java or some other program, you can entirely run your life on that particular platform. And if there is an organization like an Infosys or somebody, so they used to stick on to some stable platforms where actually they would run all their application. Today it is completely opposite. Today you have an application in which couple of languages are used. For example, on one side you can be using Android platform, another you can be using Java. So that means you must not only run your application in the context, you must also able to connect to other languages and other platforms simultaneously. This is the fourth difference. And the user patience, we all know this. In the world computing approach, if anything goes, we were asking people to wait and boot the system again. Whereas today, you can't expect that in the cloud user. Cloud user don't even spend a second to wait your application. So this is in combination with customer is king or user is king, is killing many programming myths, practice that we have been having for a long time. And finally, about the virtual machines. See, although hypervisors were essentially to behave as a physical server, today virtual machines don't behave like a virtual machines don't behave like a physical server. They are just units of compute. If you want 10 MB, you will get a 10 MB virtual machine. If you want a particular OS, then you are getting a virtual OS of that. So these are the 6 fundamental differences between a traditional computing and a modern cloud computing. But there is nothing to worry about this because cloud computing seems to be opening a new world for all our programmers. See, the proposal of cloud computing for a rockstar developer can be seen as an opportunity and a quality. Opportunity comes in the form of being able to use computing resources. In the earlier days, if you are an employee of a multinational corporation, if you want to test out something, then you need additional computing.
Ravindra, again we cannot hear you. Ravinder,
Hello?
yes.
Yes. There was a line cut actually. I'm continuing now.
Okay.
Okay. So opportunity, okay. See, there is nothing, although there is a fundamental change between cloud computing and traditional computing, developers have a lot many things to gain. The first one is opportunity. I told you, opportunity comes in the form of being able to have computing resources of your choice and your quantities of your choice. In the the traditional computing, if you are part of a team in a particular company or MNC, and if you want to experiment with some different approach, to getting a computing resources from them was actually a big task. You have to apply, you have to indent for that and take time and all. So now it is not there. If you have just a credit card, you can get them. And this opens up a lot of experimental space, and not only to a couple of things that you can try without actually bothering to ask somebody. The second one is actually comes from the ubiquitous set of sources which are available. In the past, suppose you become a particular expert in a particular kind of a deck machine and all. See, you cannot leave your job for a simple reason that you don't find another organization using a deck machine. So that means you are married to a technology or a platform which you cannot change. So these were very company specific and industry specific. Today, cloud computing technology are company agnostic. For example, if you know a Java application engine like Google App Engine, it works in every institution the same way. And earlier, suppose you want to do some kind of a work in a particular IT set of an organization, you have to spend a lot of time in understanding what's the IT existing structure and then poke your nose. Whereas today, because of the APIs and all, the uppermost understanding, a comprehensive understanding will help you to get into the any level. So this has a very good consequence for every developer because he can make different career decisions. You don't have to say that I have committed to deck system, I don't find another company which is using a deck, so I can't move a career move. All cloud computing technologies are through APIs kind of a thing, which will, anybody wherever he is using, whether it's Google App Engine or a Python language, he can make a big move in a career. So two great benefits of cloud computing is the quality of software and the resources that you get and the choice that you are getting out of this. And secondly, tips for developers. Actually, you want to now develop an application which is very robust because given the nature, frail nature of the cloud computing. So skill set evolving is a kind of a requirement that every developer needs to develop. But there is one warning from the developers also. Now that cloud computing is giving you free access to money resources, this is doing the same thing for the entire population also. Now you don't have to be a computer science graduate to develop an application, and there are what are called citizen developers. According to some prediction, many people in the population are capable of developing applications which is needed by lot many people, and population may not be waiting for companies to release them. And according to some estimates, about 25% of the applications by 2014 will be developed by these citizen developers who will pose a kind of a threat to existing developers. So now that I have covered the implication of cloud computing for the developers, I will go to the next group now, and that group actually is team leads or tech leads. See, IT team leaders will spend less time focusing on the manual details and actually more focus on effective. That means in the earlier cloud, the previous era, setting up an IT infrastructure means buying them, procuring them, installing them, and then seeing that how best they have used. But today, because cloud computing gives everything as a service, it is not getting them, but how best are using that is the question. And any shortage or any problem with the machines, for example, your hardware is down or your hard disk is not working, that was your big concern, finding a replacement or going back to the customer or vendor for a replacement. Today, that is not a thing. So now what you focus is actually, if you have a problem, you just report it back to the service provider. And in most cases, you don't even have to do that because the service provider himself has identified a problem and solved your problem. What it actually means for a team lead is now he can run multiple applications and he can actually run multiple experiments simultaneously, assuming that whatever the IT resources that need are granted to him. Secondly, you don't have to set a big computer or IT setup. Today, all that you need are connecting devices. For example, entire college setup in my college is set up with a small lab of say 20 machines, and we rotate it across the different classes, different labs simultaneously. And if you looked at any particular labs of the past days, you used to have about 10 or 25 labs, 10 to 20, 12 labs with 40, 50 machines. So you are saving a space also. And thirdly is actually if you are environmental conscious, then what actually happens is also because your computing consumption is very less here and all that you are getting is computing and not just machines, the environmental impact also is very less. And thirdly, because cloud is an universally accessible resource, you can communicate with and collaborate with any developer anywhere without restricting yourself to a particular group of people within your company. So now that I have finished these team leaders, I will go to the project leaders, and they also have a lot many implications. Project leaders are the people actually who will start a project in an organization, and the first job that challenge for them is to securing buy-in from the leadership. See, although I have told you that although cloud computing is making lot many waves in the newspapers and others, the top management are always scared about cloud computing. They are somehow not convinced. So a project leader, the first and the foremost job is convincing them and getting an assessment and approval for a project. And then there are stories which you have to take, like assessing the risk. Since cloud computing stores our data elsewhere, for example, although there are 45 million Gmail users in India, Google doesn't have a data center in India. Every time you type or store something, it goes out of country. So this may be true also for an organization which uses Google App Engine for storing its data. So that kind of an assessment that you have to do. And also a security issue. Security is also a big issue. So project manager, if the clients or somebody is asking about security issues and all, then he has to make a lot of a big planning saying that whether my data is stored in my own country, because there are some regulatory restrictions. For example, in America, the health data cannot be moved out of American continent for American citizens. But there is a great future for this project project leaders or project managers for a simple reason that during ancient times, actually for every 10 programmer, there is to be one project manager. Today it is the opposite because for a simple reason that we need less programmers today and more project leaders. But the reason is programming job has been actually taken over by cloud computing. All that you have APIs and you are tuning them. For this reason, what actually happens is every time somebody would like to try a project, the first thing they would ask you is to test this one. For that, you don't need actually a programmer. All that you need is actually somebody who has some kind of an understanding about the underlying cloud computing platforms and do that. Secondly, many companies have learned that it is far easier to modify the software to meet a particular thing than to convert their people into using a new software. And now that all these softwares are available, it is possible that actually you can modify by adding some kind of additional features or gadgets so that actually people can start using that. Maybe most of the programmers now they know probably understand that is imposing on population to change the habits doesn't work, but making most of their existing habits is always good. And that's the reason there is a tremendous move called BOID, bring your own devices. So what companies are believing is that instead of asking people to learn a new device in their organization, use their existing devising patterns, habits to extract work from them or get their work done. And thirdly, implementation ready to use. For example, you have a CRM which is only to be customized to your organization. For that, you don't need a programmer. A programmer manager will do it. For this reason, there is a great hope and great future for programming managers. Okay. And fourth, the minimum amount of technical needed. For example, when you are writing a Java application, little of Python is sufficient. The rest will be taken care by the background or the underlying software, which will ensure that it will be a robust application. For these four reasons, project leaders have better future than the programmers or other people. And the third audience, which actually I considered in the registration people, are actually the tech architects or the cloud tech architects. So the cloud computing today is moving in a direction where there may be a day in the future where actually cloud application will become unaware of the physical hardware, the way electricity we are using. For example, electricity until it reaches your home, it doesn't know on which particular appliance it will be run. Something similar will happen in cloud computing where a cloud will be holding all the resources, but application will be left and they will come to alive only when somebody uses it. So it is something like running an application on a virtual machine you don't know or you have to access, and you don't know whether that virtual machine is currently accessible or not, or whether it gets destroyed while you are running. So you must be developing an application which is so robust that it has to run on unknown virtual machine. And every time a system or a cloud application will run, it will ask who am I and what is my role. That means an application can be run in my college, developed by somebody say in Britain, and simultaneously it will run in Bangalore. But it should be running on two different environments, one in Bangalore, one in Harvard, although the origin of that program is elsewhere in Australia. So this kind of an uncertainty will actually help a cloud architect. This uncertainty should be taken care by a tech architect while developing an application. So there are 5 guidelines for architects. So architect's solution must in a component way. What it actually means is there is a movement in in technological circles called service-oriented architecture. What it means is don't develop applications, develop services. And a combination of service will actually give you the result of what an application used to give earlier. So what architect has to do is check out what are the requirements of an organization and try to bundle, identify resource services which will give that result and go further. The advantage of this is you can start small with a service. And another advantage is if there is a service available elsewhere, you can directly import, because one of the crucial decisions that any professional has to make is whether to buy or build. And chances are that in cloud that buying is always simpler and cheaper option. And value application programming interfaces over languages. Earlier there used to be Java religion and a .NET religion. Today that has gone because of the communication with different applications, different organizations. Now this Java and .NET, they actually come just under the badge kind of a thing, where actually the interfaces would happen through cloud abstracts. So you don't stick on to a particular language, you just ensure that you are creating a value from your application. And along with service-oriented architecture comes the reuse. So what it actually means is, cloud computing as today has become kind of a language. What it means that every word which is needed for a human communication is there in the language. Only thing is that we have to find it through a dictionary. Similarly, in cloud computing, most of the things that you need are already built as services and available on the cloud. So all that you have to do is to search for that and get and use that as a combination to achieve your goal. Today, any story writer will not invent new word. He will use an existing word to write a new story. Similarly, future architects will build systems not by designing and developing a new application, but understanding the requirement and buying those services which are available in the market, the way writer will choose words from the dictionary and write something. And this is a fundamental difference. And secondly, today, for the first time, good things are happening in the population, not in the enterprises. So for that reason, it is possible that you have a unique requirement of a particular service which nobody in your organization or industry has developed, but somebody in the population has developed it. So this will help a lot. So this is called actually crowdsourcing, which makes advantage or intelligence available in the population to take advantage and go further. Finally, the cloud architect also has to measure his application. See, in cloud computing, everything is free, but everything is measured. For example, when you create a Gmail account, it says that you have been given 15 GB, and every time you actually use it, it also reports it back to you. So the reason why I'm telling you is this: in cloud computing, everything is monitored, and there comes a time where actually you exceed your free quota, then the measurement will start, and they will start charging you. So if you are measuring your performance and your consumption all the time, the mindset that you have of measurement will help you a lot to save money or to live off the resources that you don't need further. And these are the lessons for cloud tech architect. He has to design for failure and nothing fails. Because I told you the underlying hardware is available in the cloud, but there is no guarantee where it is available. So you should always ensure that your application or your service will gain the hardware which is needed. And loose coupling sets you free. What it actually means that in the earlier tradition, a machine is like a Windows machine which is coupled to a Windows application, and that was separate from the rest of the world. Whereas today, a particular application can be running on any platform anywhere, and loose coupling would also make it possible that you can print a particular document which is created on Adobe using some feature in MS Word. So this kind of adding features from different things is called loose coupling. And implementation elasticity, what it actually means is, if 10 people are using today, if for some reason, maybe for a merger or other things actually, if the number of people increases to some hundreds or few hundreds, then your application should be in a position to take that in. Okay, these are a set of references for a cloud architect. And the third audience that I looked was actually the web programmers. For them, it's almost identical, except that actually they have to know their tools, because web programmers many a times are actually independent programmers who can actually take care of this, knowing their tools, because cloud tools are available today, and 9 out of 10 tools they need are always available. Only the question is that designing for scalability is to be taken care, and that scalability comes from the options that you have in both in computing and storage facilities. And what they should also rethink about software architecture. They are not developing for a particular mission, particular platform. They are doing it for everybody. And the key word is service. So in cloud computing, there are no applications. There are only services. Services can be run, they can be consumed, they can be brought together in a combination and create something more out of them. And I could see only 3 database and designers, and for them, there's a big challenge. See, the traditional computing, the database was inside your organization, running, say, a Java, Oracle and all, and you know every content in that, and you had a primary key so that you can process. Today on cloud transactions, what actually happens is couple of data items come from couple of databases. For example, there is no primary key when somebody is actually booking a ticket using Indian Railways and borrowing money from a bank, and he was actually selling it to somebody else. So this goes against the traditional computing called shared nothing, where actually a particular server or a particular data storage will be using or will be used only for storing a particular application data. Whereas in cloud computing, data may be migrated from or collected from many places. For that, they use a different language called NoSQL or shredding, which needs to be learned. So database architect has to completely change his mindset and move on. So for GUI developer also, it is same as architects. He has to notice all those things which I mentioned there. And the last thing that I saw, 2 students who are registered. For them, cloud computing provides a new competence space and project space and also an entrepreneurial space, and you can click any one of them and actually look into the further details. So when actually I designed this application, this seminar, I thought that I should be delivering it to either CEO or board level members. So actually I have included Cloud for Leaders also, which I am not presenting here for a simple reason that I didn't see much there. Okay. So, and also for the strategic people, and I think I end it here. Hello?
Thank you so much, Ravindra, for the presentation. And yes, I have also apologized to the attendees today because of the connectivity issue. I'm now going to send you across some questions which we have received during the session today. You will be able to view the questions in your questions window on the control panel.
Questions window.
I haven't assigned the questions as yet. Just give me a minute.
Okay.
You will be able to see them now. I have given you 2 questions.
No, actually I opened a question session. Okay.
You'll have to undock the questions pane the way I have showed you last time.
Yeah. I can see them. Okay. No, actually I'm seeing it, but actually what I'm actually happening is I can't read it fully.
Okay. You want me to read the questions?
I'm reading this.
Do you want me to read the questions for you?
Yeah, actually I'm reading like how cloud computing secure IP.
Let me read the questions for you.
Okay.
Okay, we have a question from Kaushik Datta, and he's asking, what is the career path in cloud computing like?
Okay. See, the answer is very simple. See, cloud computing is just emerging. That means it is just 5 years old, and everything that was being done on traditional computing platforms will eventually move to cloud computing. Okay. For that reason, that means there is for example, a programmer in a traditional computing would actually become a cloud developer. And similarly, a security specialist in the traditional computing would actually become a corresponding position in that. So this is the best time to start career in cloud computing. As I told you like earlier, see, one of my students actually started developing a Google based application, Google App Engine application, and based on those skills actually he has earned a job, and now today he is earning about 4 times what he started earning. So if you are already an existing programmer in a traditional computing, then there are certain skills that you can learn and migrate into that one. And if you are just starting a career, then there are a lot of certifications that will help you to move on to this new bandwagon. Good. Yeah, I finished. Hello?
Yeah. The next question is from Abhijit Das. He's asking, how do I evaluate security concerns addressed by the cloud vendor, if at all?
Okay, see, security concerns of cloud computing are genuine and they are real. But actually, the cloud computing technology, in order to push itself, has actually developed a lot of technologies and measures to ensure that security is taken care. But to the extent, security is also more of a perception than actually a reality. A lot of people actually worry about the security of their data stored in the cloud. But a simple analogy will explain you. About 20 or 25 years back, when people started, when banks started offering bank lockers, there was a kind of a perceptional problem with the people that how do I keep my money in my jewelry in bank because I don't know the manager and I don't know the bank's security system. But today, 25 years down the line, people pay 1 lakh deposit to get a bank locker. So what has changed is not the locking system of banks, but among the population now you know that if banks can protect their money well, they can protect my jewelry also well. Something similar is happening in cloud computing. If Google and Facebook can maintain their data safely, probably they can also manage your data equally well. Having said that, there are things like Cloud Security Alliance. They are working at very highest level to ensure both in policy and practice terms that data is very safe. But again, like any human, this one, see, any loss or any accident is a statistical thing. For every 10,000 vehicles that move on the road, there is always a probability of 1 or 2 meeting with an accident. Similarly, for every 10,000 or 20,000 users, and for every 10 or 20,000 transactions, there will be 1 or 2 transactions which may be subject to a security breach. Yeah, I'm done.
Okay.
Hello. Yeah.
Yeah, the next question would be, I'm getting a bunch of questions. Let me read the relevant one.
Yeah. No.
Okay, there's this question from Pradnya Shah. The question is, for developers, where can we start? Can you suggest any course or certification to be a successful cloud developer?
Yeah. See, developers, I told you, developers are all building an application, and there are very popular development applications in cloud computing today. And if you are coming from the Microsoft line, then there's a .NET applications which will help you, and they have a product called Microsoft Azure, which is a proprietary. And another famous one is called Amazon Web Services. They also have a set of courses which are available and also certifications. And if you want to start free, then there is something called Google App Engine, which helps you to build a small application. And being a teacher in an engineering college, what we are doing is actually starting with a free software like Google App Engine is a good chance and a good opportunity. Once you develop and reach a professional level, then you can move on to AWS or Microsoft Azure. But what you should remember very clearly is that if you have an initiative, cloud, there are no limits either for the tools or resources for converting your dream into a developer. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. The last question for today would be.
Hello.
Yes, Ravindra, can you hear me?
Yeah, please.
Okay. There's this question from Santosh Jha. He's writing, I am a .NET developer and I want to know what type of change is required to go into cloud computing.
Okay. See, .NET actually came as a by Microsoft as a response to Java 1. So both companies at that time are actually trying to create an infrastructure so that entire world can migrate to their domain. So, but when cloud computing came just after that, and both companies moved on to accommodate this new development. So, what if you are a developer in .NET and moving to the Microsoft product called Microsoft Azure is a simple and a straightforward job. So, Azure has all the features which helps .NET developer to convert an existing application into a cloud or to build an entirely new cloud applications using the Azure application platform.
All right, Ravindra, with that we come to the end of today's session.
Hello?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing.
Yeah, all right. So as I said, thank you so much once again for taking your time out today and giving this insightful presentation. For all the attendees, it's a request, since we had some connectivity issue today during the session, I would request all of you to visit www.techgig.com maybe sometime tomorrow afternoon, and we will ensure that we upload today's session there so that you can go back and probably go through the whole presentation once again. Also, if there is any query, any feedback in regards to today's session, please feel free to drop us a mail, and if there are more questions for Ravindra, please feel free to write to us, or you can write to our speakers directly. You can also write to us on our discussion forum. Ravindra, you can also come and participate in the discussion forum and answer some of the questions offline.
Fine, no.
All right. With that note, thank you so much, Ravindra. Thank you so much, all the attendees, for your fair participation today and making this webinar a success. Ravindra, we would love to
Okay,
have more sessions with you in near future.
definitely. So thank you very much for giving me a chance, and sorry for any technical things that have gone wrong from my side. Okay. Hello.
So much. Thank you so much.
Hello. Thank you. And if any technical mistake has happened from our side, I'm sorry about that.
Not a problem, Ravindra. Not a problem. Thank you so much, and you have a great day.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.